This isn't one of those 10 tips to succeed at work videos, because honestly, a lot of that advice doesn't really work anymore. The job market has changed, and so has the traditional 9 to 5. Naturally, there are a lot of concerns for people of all ages. Gen Z in particular gets the short end of the stick. Because this topic is so broad, I have decided to just cut the shit and share the honest truth about my experience working the traditional white collar job. Despite the bickering between generations, I'm sure we can all agree on one thing. We can talk about our fear of AI taking our jobs. We can talk about how much the interview process is a nightmare. We can talk about how we feel undervalued. But if I can be honest, this really boils down to one thing that all employers feel reluctant or just can't seem to comprehend: honesty and transparency. It honestly blows my mind how many corporate leaders are out of touch with the job market today. Now, I get that many grew up in a different time, but shouldn't it be common sense that times have changed and that we must adapt according to those changes? Let's summarize how much the work structure has changed within the last decade. Remote and hybrid working models are now an option. Roles are being redefined due to the impending takeover of AI, and layoffs are now common and incentivized. Don't get me wrong, I understand that struggle is important for development and growth. However, there is a difference between struggling and drowning. According to a concerning report from the Edelman Trust Barometer, more people are beginning to believe that working hard will not lead to a better life. I'm surprised they even needed to speak to multiple people when they could have just asked me. I've been in the workforce for some time, and I honestly feel stuck. Despite my job history, skills, and accolades, moving up the ladder feels non existent. Why? This ties back into honesty and transparency. I can't tell you how many jobs I have worked and where the recruiters and employers told me one thing and did something entirely different in practice. And I can't just leave because of how many limited opportunities there are nowadays. Here is a quick list of things I was lied to about and what actually happened. First, the role is hybrid with 2 days in office and 3 days at home. Not even 1 month later, a full office mandate was announced. Some well-known companies such as JP Morgan Chase, AT&T, and Amazon have already pushed for in-office mandates. The reasons they all seem to share are there is more collaboration, better productivity, and stronger culture. Right. Second, commission will be sent via direct deposit 3 months post sale. In reality, commission was only received so long as the remaining 2/3 of the process was successful, all of which I had no oversight or control over. If anything, at least I had no doubt the recruiters and managers were great at sales. I was hired for a seniorish role. 3 days before I started the job, I was essentially demoted by title due to company restructuring. While pay remained the same, I was still expected to perform the duties that reflected the role of someone in a senior position. But hey, at least I can afford shit. Fourth, company culture is top priority. Yet all events, both professional and casual, were essentially eliminated as the year progressed. And that holiday party they spoke so highly of? Yeah, we all just acted like that was not even a conversation 3 months ago. And last but not least, the company has multiple growth and development opportunities. They are still there. Just don't expect a raise, promotion, or any accolades whatsoever. I could go on, but this is scary because many people no longer see the point of even trying, especially in younger generations. Contrary to popular belief, Gen Zers are very ambitious and determined to contribute to society and are as capable as anyone else I have ever known. But how can we when we are constantly being gaslit on our work ethic and not being compensated fairly? Reports from the Wall Street Journal and ZipRecruiter share that around 48% of companies have admitted to being proactive in discovering new ways to pay employees less than what is normally advertised. They are even going as far as to ignore state pay transparency laws. Their reasoning is to reset employee expectations. Look, I've never been in the hiring manager's position, so I'm trying to be as fair as possible. But just based on the experience of employees across all ages, are you really resetting expectations, or are you trying to find new ways to get cheap labor? What used to be seen as flexibility through remote and hybrid work environments is now turning into something else entirely: an infinite workday. Reports from Forbes and Harvard are finding that many American employees are checking emails as early as 6 a.m., responding as late as 10 p.m., and working weekends, not because they have to, but because it's become expected. I can confirm from my experience because I just sent an email before I even recorded. Also, while it is not openly communicated, many employers expect employees to ensure projects progress smoothly by any means necessary. That would include working post and pre working hours if need be. And the information from Forbes and Harvard merely scratched the surface. A few additional examples I have personally experienced are shortening lunches to 30 minutes versus the 1 hour I was promised, or working through lunch entirely. Another one would be coming earlier and staying later despite the job being promoted as a 9 to 5. And last but not least, expecting me to be available while I'm on vacation. The list goes on forever. Flexibility turned into being available all the time. Back to my vacation example. I had a situation with a former employer, planned my vacation in advance, and I handled my responsibilities. Came back and got pulled into a disciplinary meeting about why I wasn't working during my vacation. I got in trouble for not working on vacation. You see, I'm proud of the work I do. So when I'm told I'm falling short, when I know I'm meeting or exceeding expectations, I don't take that too well. I push back, respectfully but firmly, because if you don't protect your time or advocate for yourself, no one else will. Of course, make sure you don't have a track record of being an idiot, or this goes downhill real quick and you start looking like a clown. I won't go into too much detail about the interaction. However, I will summarize the ending of it. I definitely remembered what a toxic boss looked like and that there is a difference between having a boss and having a leader. And then there's AI. Employers are actively reassuring that AI will not take over our jobs. Yet they are heavily investing in AI and are downsizing the human workforce to make room for AI implementation. Companies like Block have started integrating AI heavily into their operations. A news report a few months back showed that the company cut roughly 4,000 employees and replaced them with AI. Last I checked a few months ago, Block stocks have increased by 25%. This move has incentivized companies to replace the human workforce at a large scale. If companies can replace roles with AI and get rewarded for it, what do you think happens next? This only adds to the frustration over the job market. So, we have recruiters lying in interviews, we have bosses who change the rules of employment at a moment's notice, and we are consistently being told that AI is only going to be used as a tool while companies are actively replacing their workforce. So, where is the line drawn? Transparently, we are a tiny speck in the grand scheme of things. However, we can do things on our end at an individual level that can inspire and create long term change. Here's a few examples of a few actions I personally do to ensure I keep my job while also maintaining my peace and attempt to create long term change. I touched on this earlier, but set boundaries. If the job was meant to operate between 9 to 5, work only from 9 to 5. If you are on vacation and will be unavailable for X amount of time, don't respond to any messages coming from your boss. If you are promised a 1 hour lunch, you better take that 1 hour lunch. As I said earlier, if you do not stand up for yourself, no one will. Of course, there may be some exceptions, but for the most part, you need to set and hold your boundaries. If I can be a little honest, I believe employers are able to get away with altering terms of employment is because employees let them. While it is frustrating that employers are becoming more comfortable crossing boundaries, can we blame them if we are actively letting them? Please keep in mind that at the end of the day, this is kind of a transactional relationship. They need us just as much as we need them. So stop giving them all the power. Next is to make sure everything, and I mean everything, is in writing. As I have implied multiple times in this video, employers are not afraid to cross boundaries, and some are becoming more comfortable doing borderline illegal shit to get their desired outcome. I am going to keep my mouth shut about some experiences that I've heard from my colleagues and even some of my own experiences. However, what I will say is having all interactions in writing is your greatest shield against all adversity and workplace discrimination. Not only does this protect yourself, we can begin to hold managers accountable again. Through consistency, I believe we can rebalance the workplace to ensure mutual respect across all levels in the corporate ladder. Last but not least, if nothing is changing in your immediate environment, brush up that resume and quit. I'm telling you from experience, you can only advocate for yourself, advocate for change, and hold people accountable for so long. However, if your workplace is beginning to cost you your peace, you need to think for yourself and know when to call it quits. The first professional job I have ever worked, low-key gave me PTSD. Shit, it was so bad, I removed it from my resume entirely. And like all relationships, if the last one was toxic, it bleeds into the next one. Please treat this as a last resort. And before you decide to quit, please do a cost benefit analysis. For an example, are you in a good place to quit? Do you have a backup job readily available? And my personal favorite, is the workplace really toxic? Or are you running from accountability? If you have experienced any of this, drop your thoughts below. And if you haven't watched part 1, Gen Z versus recruiters, definitely check it out in the link below. Because both of these together, this is the full picture of what we're dealing with right now. Also, share your thoughts on how to better navigate the 9 to 5 in the comment section so we can continue to build a community and work towards building a safer and secure work environment. Catch you on the next one. Until then.